Testing 1, 2, testing 1 and 2. Testing 1, 2, testing 1 and 2. Oh, that sounds beautiful. What's up, everybody? It's Supreme Decisions here, and today I get to talk about lawful orders from police. Now, the great part about this is I wanted to do this one. I thought I actually had done it already because I found the greatest thing ever is the being that a police officer has no clue of what a lawful order is. And 99% of them believe just because they are wearing a uniform and they say something that it becomes lawful. Now, I'm going to go in today where I'm going to give you these caveats that are done through actual law that says when an order is lawful and the context in which it needs to be done. Because there's one phrase that can flip your day upside down, and it's obey my lawful orders. But what actually is a lawful order? We're going to break it down to myth that every command is a mandate. I'm going to map out all the real rules, the ones the Supreme Court has put in black and white, so you know when the law requires your participation, when it allows questions, and when it protects a firm no. Because even in the context of that, I've given you the context of you being the most powerful person. Because even after you give consent for a search or whatnot, because they need your consent or the caveat. But even after you give your consent, you can withdraw your consent because that's your power. And if they choose to continue, you now have something that you can weaponize, their lawful ignorance, which means they're giving you their qualified immunity. Because how do they lose qualified immunity? Through acts of ignorance or through willful actions. So once you withdraw after you've given consent and they continue and possibly find something, now they have to justify the continued search, which now is unlawful. Now, the promise I'm going to make you is by the end of this, you'll be able to spot the difference between a request and an order. And if that order itself is lawful, you'll understand what officers can demand during a traffic stop, when you have to state your name, and why some commands like unlock your door or give blood right now are not routine boxes you can check. We'll anchor this with real cases. Mims, Wilson for exiting of the car, Brown and Heibel for ID, Rodriguez for stop length, excuse me, Riley for phone, Birchfield and McNeely for blood and breath, and Houston v. Hill for the right to speak. These are, these are not opinions. These are the actual rules of law. I'm gonna say that one more time because I almost overstepped. These are not opinions. This is actual law. So we're going to drill a simple framework, authority, basis, constitution, scope, and timing. So in the moment, under pressure, you can slow things down, comply safety where required, and preserve your defense where the law protects you. If you're taking notes, write this at the top. Ask, is this order grounded in real legal authority and within the constitutional limits? I'm going to say that one more time because I know you're not going to catch that. Is this order grounded in real legal authority and within constitutional limits? This single question offers power because now it's setting up the grounds for the qualified immunity contest. And one more thing. Resisting, even an unlawful order, can escalate to danger and lead to separate charges. Now, here's the next part about that. I've spoken about this on numerous occasions, even in Georgia. I don't ever recommend it. However, if it happens, you still have a defense. The problem is, will you have it or will a family member have it? Because in Georgia, you have the right to resist, well, hell, in the United States, you have the right to resist an unlawful command, directive, or an order, even an arrest. Now, knowing that the person that you're resisting or ignoring or what have you is along the lines of the highest percentage likelihood for violence, the highest likelihood of non-comprehension, the highest likelihood with the propensity of non-understanding, is not always recommended. But just know, once that road is crossed, you still have a defense. Just going to be depending on who's going to have it, you or someone else. But understand, the biggest thing is verbal clarity. Officer, I do not consent. And next is, I don't know. I don't offer concessions. But my concession is speaking clearly and very direct. That's why my first answer in any question that a police officer asks me is no. Do you mind if I search? No, you're not searching. Why? Because I have habitual behavior evidence that backs my no. Because I've never consented to a search of any kind from anyone my entire life. And anyone that says otherwise is a liar. Have I been searched? Absolutely. Have my car been searched? Absolutely. Have I ever consented? Nope. Have I gone after people? Absolutely. And again, these are the things that I'm going to show to you. Because, again, due to the Fifth Amendment and the advice of counsel, I choose not to answer this or any further questions. This one line preserves your challenge for court without creating new problems on the curb. And I'm going to repeat this one more time. Because most people have the right to remain silent, but the inability. So to stop the furtherance of foolishness, due to the Fifth Amendment and the advice of counsel, I choose not to answer this or any other questions. Now, any action done from a police officer after that is null and void. It is fightable in court. Why? Because you've given them the context of they only have authority when there's a crime. Up beyond that, and always understand that, traffic stop is not a crime unless there's an accident. If you damage someone's property, you damage someone, that's a crime. Other than just being pulled over, they have no authority. Due to the Fifth Amendment, self-incrimination by turning over your ID, and the advice of counsel, I choose not to answer this or any other questions. Why? Because anything I say or do will be held against me in a court. Notice I don't use the word of law because they don't go to courts of law. I actually had one tell me, oh, this is an administrative court. And then I actually showed them, because I actually did a video about it. Administrative courts are courts of records. They just choose not to carry one because they don't want the liability of being caught in their BS. Now, the first test is going to be authority and jurisdiction. Is this an actual officer acting within the duty and jurisdiction of their abilities? Now, simple, but not foundational. Here's the great part about that, because I actually talked about being in Atlanta. There are so many subdivisions of Atlanta, because you can be in College Park riding and then get pulled over by someone in East Point. They're right there together. But if they're not in East Point and they're attempting to affect something for East Point, it is invalidated because why? They're in the wrong jurisdiction, so their authority has stopped. They will tell you otherwise, does not change the law. You have, just like I just pulled up in Utah, you have game wardens, game and wildlife, attempting to write traffic citations, and they have no authority to write a citation. And the biggest part about that, they have no authority and no jurisdiction. But again, most people don't challenge it, so they kept doing it. Because you had 3 game wardens in Utah. They wrote more than half the citations that the state of Utah had. Let that sink in. 3 game wardens wrote more than half the citations in Utah. Absolutely pause for dramatic effect, because I want you to understand that, because people refuse to challenge the stop because they're thinking just because they're wearing a uniform that what they're doing is lawful and they have to abide by it. So I guess he wrote me the ticket. I did something wrong. No. They were doing it because they were doing it for quotas. You know, the thing that people told me years ago, that doesn't exist. And then when Trevor Noah did, they took him off the air. Same reiteration of exactly what I said. And just keep in mind, this wasn't something that was done 5 years ago. This story went up yesterday. 2025. October 3rd? 2025. That's when this Utah video went up. This is the thing I'm talking about. Don't just assume that because they're wearing a uniform that what they're doing is lawful. Just because they're telling you something, it's lawful. I'm literally putting up, because daily I'll go out and I'll just search records. Just kind of randomly search throughout the internet and find records. And it's amazing to me the amount of police apologists, let's call it that even when I find a record and I put it up, because I had a young lady, that Marina Lahan, she's in Odessa, was in Odessa. She was arrested and dismissed, fired as an officer. Not more than 20 minutes after me putting that up on TikTok and YouTube, I had a flood. And I do mean flood. I got more emails about this woman than I did any other thing that I put up. Even when I actually put up the wrong picture for a dude. I got 2 emails for that. Hey, that's not him. So I went back and got the right dude. Boom, there you go, my bad. No harm, no foul. Because again, it's the same story didn't change, just the picture did. Because I put up the wrong picture, I apologize. My bad. But this woman, what did she write wrong? Doesn't matter what it was. She wrote something wrong as a police officer. That was a lie. It was enough for her not only to be dismissed as a police officer, but to be arrested. She was arrested for lying. They wouldn't know what she lied about. Doesn't matter, because it was enough for her to get arrested for it. A police officer was arrested for lying. But you had people coming after me because, well, you didn't post what they... Well, cool. You want the real reason why I didn't post it? Because they had it redacted in her criminal complaint. But again, to go after and understand that someone in a uniform is not good, it goes against everything that you've been programmed your entire life, which is why I put up bad cop. Because I'm putting up police officers. A lot of these are not in the news. The what is it? Min Gong was not in the news. He was arrested. He wasn't even fired. He was arrested. I even talked about Michael Flangley. He was arrested. He's still a police officer for second-degree murder. He's sitting at the house chilling. Second-degree murder. Oh well. Had another young lady. I'm gonna put those up too. But people cannot fathom that these police officers are criminals because they wear this uniform and they think everything they're doing is lawful and correct. When in fact, they're still humans. They're humans just like you and I. Just like I made the mistake of putting up the wrong picture for a man. They make mistakes. A lot of times it costs people their life or livelihoods. And people refuse to challenge them. And even as simple as something as simple as a traffic citation. The average is over 2 million per month, less than 100,000 are, well, right around a little more than 100,000 are challenged per month. And almost 80 to 90% of those that challenge traffic citations win. You have a higher chance of winning a challenge citation than you do at playing the lottery. Just let that sink in. You play the lottery, you got people that go out here and play the lottery every day, but they'll never challenge the traffic ticket. They'll never challenge the words from an officer. Why? Because if they challenge that officer, it has to change the programming that's been instilled in them. That's why it's hard for a lot of people to accept the things that I say and do. But all you gotta do is look. Because I'm giving you the game. I'm giving you their rules. I actually had a young lady tell me yesterday, well, that sounds nice in this, but you can't win them. Why? Because she's too deep in the programming. It's programmed in her head that she can't win because they have power, when everything I talk about is you being the most powerful person. Because the judge works for you. Prosecutor works for you. The defense attorney works for you. And I've just shown you case after case, federal statute after federal statute. Liability, how it attaches to them. The judge, the prosecutor, the defense attorney, how all these things are mashed together and how you control that, but you still believe that they're more powerful than you are. You think they have more authority than you do. This is why I keep having these conversations. This is why I keep going, because even the fight for good and evil, everybody say, well, they're going after your soul. No, they're going after your decision making. They're going here. This is why you're so easily influenced on certain aspects, because the easy is to believe someone in a uniform is good. The difficult is to then rethink that the person in that uniform puts on their clothes the exact same way you do. They get up and go to sleep the same way you do every night and get up every morning. You want to take something and believe there's something different because of their clothing. So understand the validity of going through and being something that you believe they are when they actually are not is what this is. Because even understanding a valid legal basis, the order is tethered to a valid stop, arrest, a warrant, or a recognized safety rationale, or a statute or regulation that actually empowers the command. So because even what I told you with police officers, if a police officer gives you instructions and you follow through and there is no crime, that is illegal. Oh, yeah, can we forget about the show of authority stop? We forget about the oath of office that they've taken to be a servant. We forget about they're supposed to be working towards your good and your benefit. And when they do not, that is unlawful. These are the things that I'm talking about. So even when we're talking about during a traffic stop, officers can order drivers and passengers out of the car as a matter of course, but that has to be tied to them being able to articulate an ongoing threat to their safety. I'm gonna say that one more time because I just literally just posted the video. Mims, Pennsylvania v. Mims, and Maryland v. Wilson. Literally just posted yesterday. Understanding they can ask, but there has to be something attached to it. They can't just say get out the car. Why can't they just say that? Because in order for it to be lawful, it has to be tied to an actual statute, a regulation, safety rationale, a valid stop, a valid arrest, a valid warrant. But again, they have to be able to articulate an actual ongoing threat to their safety with you being sitting in that conveyance that they've lawfully stopped. Now, absent doing that is a show of authority stop, which makes it illegal. Again, not my opinion. I just gave you, now the third court case. Terry v. Ohio speaks on show of authority stops. I want to say now this is video number 20 where I'm speaking about show of authority stops. I'm speaking about Terry v. Ohio. I'm talking about the least idea of control and command that a police officer has. These are the things that we must know, we must understand, we must internalize. Because here's the next part. Just because I'm giving you this information, you still need to know how to put it together properly. Which is why I offer avenues for that. I got consultations. It's listed in the description. It is your choice. Because fighting back isn't for the weak of heart. It's for those who want to get to a better place and do something different. They want to change this. They want to make sure when we have lawful orders, that they are lawful orders coming from the police. Not just because they are scared. Because there's an actual threat to their safety. Because they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're actually within their authority and jurisdiction. And again, these are not my opinions. These are law that we're applying. You know, the ones that the law enforcement are supposed to uphold and defend. Now, the constitutional compliant, because you remember the question. Ready? So we just gonna go right over what I just read there. The order cannot violate the Constitution. It cannot criminalize protected speech. It can't demand you to unlock or search a phone without a warrant, absent a narrow exception. Those exceptions are the exigent circumstances, such as a police chase, excited utterance, and a couple of the other caveats. Because, again, what most police officers do, and they fail to do this, they'll say, oh, I smell marijuana. Then they'll handcuff you, place you in the back of a cruiser, and then proceed to search. Now, the problem is most people won't challenge that because they believe it's lawful. When in fact, you attempt to do that with me, I actually told the cop, I hope you find something. He goes, why? I said, one, because I've never consented. I said, but two, you don't have any exigent circumstances, nor do you have consent. I'm more than arm's reach away. So even if there is something in there that you smell, you're not a dog. You're not a tool. Well, you probably are a tool, but you're not a trained tool to where that is your thing. And I need that noted in the police report. Because now we get to see how many times you're using that as a means to search without cause, which makes it illegal. See how simple that was? Because someone that's handcuffed in the back of a cruiser can't destroy evidence in another conveyance that's more than 8 feet away. They have to go to a magistrate, which they don't do. And if they don't do that, that's barbecue chicken, extra sauce, extra sides. Because I'm coming. And again, I just need you to let me know. Let me do what I do. Because I actually had a conversation with a young lady yesterday. And she went to tell me, well, I want to do this. I said, hold on, let's take a deep breath. She goes, yes, because I get excited. I said, I get that. Send me my money and let me do what I do. Because I've been doing this at a high level for a very long time. I live to eat. Hell, that's why I'm more than 300 pounds now, because I love to eat. And your boy get in that kitchen and cook. I even cook with this iPad. I might be sitting down. You can ask my ex-wife. I'll be sitting down. Or I'll wake up out in the middle of my sleep and I just start typing. Because this is what I live to do. I don't do this to live. I live to do this. I actually accept and want the challenges. Because even the young man I speak with, we got some things working where he works with me on a retainer. I told him, I said, I actually go out and I pick a couple of fights. Why? Because I feel like I'm part of the 300. Because I'm looking for a soldier or an adversary that can offer me a soldier's death in this. Because I want someone that can pull out the best in me. Because I want to see how good I am or what I need to work on. Because I keep going into these battles and I keep making them fold. And I keep winning. And I keep doing, and it's almost like I'm fighting the same fight. I'm actively searching for it now. And even the reason why I did the court clerk, because generally it was the craziest thing. For a week, that's all I kept hearing. The clerk wouldn't file, the clerk wouldn't file, the clerk wouldn't file. And they told me this, they told me that. Here's a motion. Hand that to the clerk. Give that to their boss. How deep do you want me to go? Also, this ain't the only setting I've asked that question. But anyway, to watch those clerks fold because they realize they have no power, that I'm more powerful than you are. To watch a judge fold because I show you I'm more powerful than you. To watch a prosecutor fold because I'm more powerful than you. To watch a defense attorney fold because I'm giving you everything you need to show them you are more powerful than they are. Not by opinion, but by every aspect of law. It may sound like the most heinous thing in the world, but when you actually understand this and you're able to apply it and get past the mental blockages and the mental programming that you've received and start seeing it as it is, it becomes a different feeling. It becomes a different look because even your perspective changes. Your perception changes. Your attitude changes. These are the things that I'm trying to convey. Because even when we're talking about something as simple as a traffic stop and a police officer telling you something, there has to be something there in order for it to be lawful. And it amazes me the amount of police officers that don't know it. It's even more amazing the amount of people who just accept police officers not knowing law when they're law enforcement. It infuriates me when these same people try to convince me that I'm not as powerful. I should believe that they're more powerful than me. I should believe. Supreme Court tells me different. United States Constitution tells me different. Because it's a Bill of Rights. No, it's a book of restrictions. Why? Because I see it differently. Just because the matrix there on both sides don't mean the way we're looking at it is the same way. Because all you see are ones and zeros. I actually see the picture that's being painted. That's why I'm able to talk about it. Because even talking about the reasonable scope and timing, the command must be reasonably related to the mission of the stop and not unduly prolonged. For example, keeping you roadside longer just to wait for a dog sniff without reasonable suspicion is unlawful. That's why I always tell people, don't ask for a supervisor because you're bringing somebody just as stupid. Don't say, well, you mind if I get the dog? Absolutely, you're not getting. I ain't got time to be waiting on no damn dog. You got 15 minutes, partner. USB Sharp, USB Rodriguez. You got 15 minutes, partner. Because you have a job to do, not me. My job is to hold you accountable. Because every minute I'm here will determine my next move. Because again, this is chess, not checkers. And even that, I'm playing at a different level. I play this to win. And my best defense is being offensive. Because I don't want you to just hurt. I don't want you to think this is just a game. I don't want you to think that I'm playing. I'm going to put you in a chokehold. Or like I said, I do the Khabib. I take you out into deep water and allow you to discover who you are. And then I drown you. That is the whole point of the things that I do. And I even spoke to a young lady that I'm helping as well. And I told her, I don't soft pitch. I don't do anything soft. I am a hammer and everything looks like a nail to me. I am very direct. At times I'm assholish. I don't mind that because I don't apologize for the monster that I am. Because no one apologized for making me this way. I am the monster my father created. And I'm okay with it. Because just like I tell anyone, I'm good with my life now because I've made friends and I have an agreement with my demons. Because even in the context of the motion in limine I did for my RICO trial, the conversation I had with John Melvin, I told him, all the stuff that you said, here's your problem. I am everything that you call me in the news. Because you can't assassinate my character because I'm not acting. I am everything that you said I was. Now what? You're not going to paint me out to be a bad person because I am. You're painting the picture that's already there. Now what? And that's the problem that a lot of people think. They'll go in, because again, just like I spoke about the bad person I am, I still spoke about the habitual behavior evidence. I've been on the other side of this, so I know how to defend it because I'm not new to it. I'm not naive to it. I understand how the system works because I've been utilizing it for 40 plus years now. I've been doing this since 2008. I've been doing this well since 2010. I don't play law. This is my life. This is my lifestyle. And even understanding this goes through a realm of making sure when I'm doing this, I'm enacting something that creates leverage not only for today, but for tomorrow and beyond, like I'm Buzz Lightyear or something. But anyway, you also have no requirement beyond what law allows, because some commands are only lawful if only certain conditions exist, such as the exigent circumstances. Because, for instance, in order to identify yourself is generally lawful during a valid interrogation. Notice I'm using the word valid. A consensual stop has no requirements. But if there's an actual stoppage, Hybel then comes in and says you only have to give your first name. I want to say in Texas, they have codified as in if you are arrested, you only have to give your first name. Because again, they still need a warrant for your fingerprints unless you give them freely. They have to go through something. There has to be an injured party. Why? Because everybody, how do you come up with that? How do we have standing? How do you get standing in court? What's the requirement for standing? Again, that Supreme Court written law in black and white. Because understanding that, officers may order drivers and passengers to exit the vehicle. That's not always the case. Because even when we're talking about when an officer asks the question of doing the idea of exiting, there has to be a articulable, ongoing threat to their safety. And that makes it lawful. Because remember, it has to have something else going on. It's also set for the passengers, which is Pennsylvania v. Mims and also Maryland v. Wilson. Because the refusal, if they can articulate the threat, can result in arrest. The best practice, go ahead and get out. Challenge the reason you were asked to get out, and then make sure you don't consent to any searches of any kind. You don't even have to offer ID. Why? Because they must have a reason to ask for it. If not, they then set themselves up for litigation after the fact. If it's done and you comply, that's a show of authority stop, which is illegal. Again, I'm changing here. I'm changing the program. You know what? This is the one thing that most people don't understand. Because even with, can I get your license registration? Yeah, I'll tell you what's going on after I get all that other stuff. Well, Delaware v. Proust says you can't ask me for that until you've told me what am I stopped for, because you're supposed to be amenable to me at all times. Notice how I just flipped the power? Because of his oath of office or her oath of office. Their lack of amenability causes the violation, which then deems everything beyond that illegal and open to suppression. But again, most people will not, because even when I talk about the Tommy Sotomayor question, the defense attorneys who don't defend, I'm literally working with a young man now whose defense attorney told him, oh my God, these are impressive. These are well written. Though they're not frivolous. They do go along with your plan scheme of strategy. but I'm not going to file it because it'll piss off the prosecutor. And then the prosecutor is going to add more charges to you. A defense attorney just supported vindictive prosecution instead of actually fighting against it. Why? Because they didn't want to make the adversary mad. So does that mean that they're an adversary? Or are they actively participating with the prosecution? Absolutely pause for dramatic effect, because I want you to understand most of these cats are not on your side. You got to come off some real bread to get up there. Because even at the end of this, when you're talking about stay in the car, move here, commands, these must be supported by actual law. They can't just be blurted out. Because if they're not supported by actual law, they are in violation of law. Because even stepping out the car, I don't consent to searches. If they proceed to search you, or my favorite one, oh, it's not a search, it's a pat down. Great, because Terryville, Ohio covered a pat down or a frisk as a search. But you know that because you repeated Terryville, Ohio to me. So now if you're doing it, it's a willful act. If you're doing it because it's something you always do, like Blake Simmons, that's no qualified immunity, and I get to tap those pockets. Because you're doing it in spite of law. Now, the biggest issue on all of these is you can't be punished for refusing ID if the stop itself lacks reasonable cause. And that's under Brown v. Texas. Notice I'm dropping that in there. The valid stop and stop and ID states they generally must state your name. This does not unlock broader questioning, which is your first name. That's Hybel v. Nevada. But make sure it's a stop and ID state. There's not very many of them. Because again, the stop and ID requires criminal activity. Notice how all that has some caveats to it. They'll tell, oh yeah, you have to, well, great, you have to explain the criminal activity. And outside of a detention, if you are free to leave and a cop gives you an order, it is only a request, and anything beyond that becomes illegal activity by the police officer. And yes, as you see, I'm putting up bad police officer after bad police, bad cop after bad cop after bad. Yeah, they don't know, and they do break the law. Now, one of my favorites, because stop talking. The First Amendment protects a significant amount of verbal criticism to officers. I can call an officer whatever it is I like or feel. This is where feelings matter, because mine matter, because I'm somebody. A command to shut up merely to avoid criticism isn't lawful. A police officer telling you to shut up is a unlawful action and is illegal. Say that one more time. A police officer telling you to shut up is illegal. City of Houston v. Hill. That doesn't protect interference, blocking, grabbing, or dangerously crowding an investigation. Now, I'm going to give you one of those because even with the context of, I want to say North Charleston a couple of days ago, a young lady lied, which they found out literally, I want to say 48 hours after the incident happened. People were standing around while this 17-year-old was being arrested by 8 police officers. Excuse me. Now, what happened was, it was found out that the woman made a 911 call and said she was threatened with a knife. When in fact, she was threatened with money. Yes, the young man said, I'll hit you with this band. She thought band meant knife. Never saw a knife. She just heard them say ban. Why? Because she was attempting to degrade this young man who told her he'll hit her with money because she was attempting to call him broke because she didn't like the way he was dressed. And to me, he was dressed like any other teen. The boy dressed like my kids. So it's like, and none of the club. And again, if unbeknownst, if you don't know, you don't know. The clothes he had on were not cheap. I don't know why she would think he was broke or whatever. But she misunderstood the language, called the cops, and then created havoc. But in the midst of the arrest, there was at least 12 people around the police officers. They were in very close proximity. Now, they were not being aggressive towards the police in a sense, except for letting the police know this is a minor. Y'all need to calm down. He didn't do anything. This is a minor. Need to calm down. Didn't do anything. And then the crowd, it was literally everybody was within arm's reach of the police. The police did not get overexcited. They were aggressive until they said, well, we were called out here because he had a knife. And everybody said, no, this boy don't have no knife. Instantly, all the police officers who did not respond negatively to the crowd being pressed upon them, they didn't respond negatively, which was a surprise to me. All of them, you could see all of them immediately, all of their shoulders went from here to, hold on, this boy don't have a knife? That's why we're here like this, because we were told he had a weapon attacking someone. Now, I brought that up because the dangerously crowding in an investigation, that would qualify. Because you're not only in close proximity, I want to say at least 4 or 5 people was in literal arm's reach of 2 or 3 of the police officers during this encounter. But as much as I criticized them, you could see that they too, while being aggressive, they were not overly aggressive, because I've also seen where crowds weren't that close, such as in New York, and the police officers go to put hands on those that are not only standing in close proximity, but those that are even near, that aren't even really near the actual scene. Because in doing this, these are not protected interference actions. Why? Because interference is a physical act. I actually did that long-winded ass soliloquy because I want you to have context. And then also, if you actually go back and watch the video, you'll be able to see exactly what I'm saying. Because they were aggressive, but they weren't overly aggressive. But they also came there because of a call that was made. And once they heard and saw that the people were not restless, and they heard, that boy ain't never have no knife. All of them, it was almost simultaneous, like we're doing, because they realized we came here like that because they told us he was doing something. That is not a regular thing. But understand, I'm speaking about it to give a clear definition of interference. Interference is an actual physical act. Blocking is an interference act. That is also done by police officers standing in front of cameras. That is illegal. Whether you're doing it to police officers or the police officers doing it to you, that's an illegal act. Walking up and just grabbing you, that's an illegal action. That's also interference for you and them. And even the crowd, the compression of a crowd, which is why they do that as a show of force. But anyway, going into the context of that, because even while recording, the Supreme Court hasn't decided the recording. Police question, multiple circuits recognize the right to record the subject to reasonable time, place, manner limits. doesn't physically interfere, maintain distance, keep your hands visible. Now, they do give different directives. One of those is generally 10 feet as far as recording the police in the performance of their duty in public areas. You can't go into restricted areas. And even in the context of this, you can record in your private protected spaces without interference, which is what I was literally just talking about. If you're riding around without a dash camera, you are an idiot. And I do mean the way I just said that. Because just the amount of times I watch innocent people go out and they're harmed, and that's when they decide to go and do something, that is the literal impact of not being vigilant or doing their due diligence to protect their own safety. Because just because it hasn't happened does not mean it will. Even with the video recording, that does not mean you won't have something happen. That just means you're collecting evidence of it does. Because why? Almost 77% of video does not come from police. I'm going to say that one more time. 77%, almost 77% of video that we see do not come from police. The video that makes it to court does not come from police, because it's always the body camera malfunction, or they didn't have it running, or the manual shutoffs, or they have it covered, or it's redacted. There's always something instead of having full transparency. And even to the context of doing something as simple as police making you unlock your phone so they can delete a video. That is a warrantless search as well as destruction of evidence. Those are felonies. Police officers commit this more often than not. I don't consent to anything because I don't believe I have to. Why? Because I'm 6'4", 300 pounds. That's why. That's literally the only reason. I'm too big to be. I'm too big to run, too stupid to be scared. Because at the end of the day, everything that I read that's a restriction for you is a weapon for me. And I don't mind dragging you out to the deep end, helping you discover yourself, and then drowning you. I don't interfere with my enemies when they're doing something to harm themselves. Since we got to be politically correct on all these platforms now. If they're going to inflict self-harm, I'm not going to stop them. I allow them to do it. Because either you're going to do it or I'm going to do it for you. But understanding the idea of consent should always be no. Rather, well, if you were innocent, you would have nothing to hide. And then they'll immediately go to hiding and lying to you. So let that sink in. I had a cop tell me that one day, and I told him, I said, here's the problem. I'm not innocent of shit. Why are you lying? Because you just said, and I actually used that, you haven't given me your full name. And you're required to do it. In order for you not to give me your full name, you have to lie. You have to violate law to not give me your full name. But then you'll tell me not doing it, which is protected by law, is because I'm guilty. So what are you guilty of? Because it's amazing when you hear stupid go right back. I often tell people to repeat what they just said. Why? Because stupid sounds different a second time. Well, if you were innocent, you would just give me that information. You would just let me look. I don't know you. And just letting people look has literally gotten thousands of people put in jail. Literally. And I ain't talking about over the last 20, 30. I'm talking about the last, 12 months? What are we doing? The only stupid one here is you, because anytime I'm involved in the conversation, at least one person has some sense. And I'm listening so I can throw it back in your face. Because I want you to understand that, because they will do things to manipulate you, because this has nothing to do with law, which is why I actually enjoy the Tennessee issues that are going on, because they're actually locking people up, taking their cars, people losing their jobs and not fighting back when they're not intoxicated. They're being written up for DUIs and their insurance is going, their life is being changed because police officers are saying they did something and they're not challenging it. Well, I just looked up again, because just kind of going through it. Fort Collins, right down the road. 2 years ago, did the exact same thing Tennessee is doing right now. Do you know they're in federal court because they allowed this as a common practice, just like Tennessee is doing? Tennessee has admitted to at least now 15 people. They've admitted to 15. Give it another week. It's going to keep going because it has not stopped yet. It slowed down. It hasn't stopped. In the past month, it went from 3 to 4 to 14. Now, yesterday, we got number 15. And the great part about that, it was a cop. They had a DUI on a cop with a body camera, and the dude saying, oh, he's not intoxicated. I don't think he's intoxicated. I think he's having a medical emergency. But I don't want to make a mistake. Had the paramedics come and say, he's not intoxicated. He's having a medical emergency. They still wrote him a ticket for DUI. A cop who wasn't drunk. His sugar had dropped. Let that sink in. The cops need these quotas filled so bad that they're writing tickets even after being told these people are not intoxicated. Fort Collins literally just did that. They're being sued right now. And here's the crazy part. We don't hear about that because they're talking numbers. It's not even talking about any, because now they have to compensate each one of those drivers. Which is why they're trying to keep that number in Tennessee low. Because they even talking about one driver. One cop has 8. One cop has 8. So just imagine the amount he's written over the years. He has 8 from the last 12 months that they've admitted to. Notice what I'm saying. And what's happening is people are seeing this and they're now going back because police are very infallible. They're not working on lawful actions. People are now challenging them because the programming is changing. That's what I'm talking about here. People think just because a police officer says something, it's lawful. When in all actuality, a police officer shouldn't even be talking to you except to tell you what you've done and how to correct it and where to go to do the correction. And then going on to the next. All the other extra stuff, telling you to shut up, where to go, how to do it, all those are illegal acts. Which is why I tell people, the reason I don't do certain stuff is simply because they are not trained to do their job correctly. Because outside of having a videotape or some type of video with my social security number tattooed on my ass, you're going to have to get Jesus and 12 more people to say I did it, because I'm not going to say I did it. You're going to have to prove. Matter of fact, we're going to have to authenticate that tape. I'm going to challenge every aspect of it. Why? Because I know they don't do it right. But in order for me to change the system, I have to force it to. I have to give it a reason to. Because right now, it's very profitable and it's working because no one's challenging. Because when you're talking about less than 5% of people that are brought into the system challenging it, there's a reason for it. Because they're programming you that you can't win. Ain't nothing gonna happen. We can't do that. Them people said that. What would them people do? And as long as you're worrying about them people, you're part of the problem. And now, in the tense moments, most people mistake volume for power, which is why police officers yell. Or they'll say, well, you're yelling, you need to calm down. Because then they'll mistake control for power. Real power is clarity, being direct, looking them in the face, not being excited. Ask one question: is that command backed by law? That answer lets you know where they stand with their qualified immunity and lack thereof. Because they're either going to answer it to show you that they're either dumb or they don't know, or they're not going to answer it and going to say something else, because that's called a deflection. Because they know how they answer that determines how you attack their qualified immunity. Clarity is power. Calm is power. Because when you're calm, you're able to use this. You're able to stay here. Be in the moment. Take a deep. Get you about 3-4 of them if you need it. Smile. Well, if you don't, just glare. Whichever makes you happy. But understand, at doing this determines your defense. This sets up everything you do from this point on, because now you're getting ready to either set up your fight or you're getting ready to be a co-conspirator with allowing them to continue this behavior. Because even when you exit a car, offering an ID to comply, to document, and determine how complicit you are going to be in your own detriment is done in that moment. Because even if they're telling you to unlock your phone and you comply, they're doing this without a warrant. Let them know they got to earn that. Because I've even gone as far, just to give you an example, I was on the side of the road, the cop asked, could he search my car? I told him no, and I made sure prior to doing what I was going to do, because I knew it was going to happen. Why? Because I had seen this monster before. I asked my ex-wife at the time, I said, hey, do you have your extra keys on you? She said, yeah. I said, okay, cool. Make sure you hide them. Put them in your bra. So whenever he asked, I flung the keys. Nope. There is no more of a sign that I do not consent than throwing my keys into the bushes. Because now you need exigent circumstances. And you know what I did? I walked more than 8 feet away from the car. And he asked me, what are you doing? I said, I'm taking away your exigent circumstances because you don't have consent. You know what his next question was? So you a lawyer? I told him, I said, you getting ready to find out after this traffic stop? And I sat there and waited until he left. Because at the end of the day, I understand how we're playing this game. I've been playing it for a long time. I've been winning for a long time. And even understanding safety orders in stocks, they must have a legal backing in order for them to be lawful. The if, the and, the ors. If not, they are not lawful. If they are not lawful, I don't have to listen. However, I can now have a bullet in the chamber against them. Pop, pop. Knowing the difference. Because even with the ID, that hinges on Heibel v. Nevada and Brown v. Texas. Because even the time limits, Sharp, Rodriguez, and everything that they need has to be through consent or through somebody else giving them permission, because they don't have the cognitive ability to determine what probable cause is. Malloy v. Hogan. Due to the Fifth Amendment and the advice of counsel, I choose not to answer this or any further questions. Officer, I do not consent. Am I free to go? This protects you twice. It protects you to keep you safe for now, and it preserves your defense later. Stay respectful, stay calm, stay steady, and stay within the law, because that's where your leverage ends, and my assistance to help you bust their head open begins. Don't forget to like, subscribe, join the channel. Don't forget to set up your consultations, contact me, and let's start hitting this super chat. We got to keep this channel going and glowing. And I'll see you guys later this afternoon.